to my channel. Today we're going to go over some tips on easy ways you can create a meditation corner in your home, a sacred space, a Zen space, whatever you want to call it, somewhere where you can be to really reconnect with yourself, be in the present moment, and meditate if you meditate. So that's what we're going over today, and let's get into the video. Before we get into the tips, I just want to talk about why you would even want to create a space or to carve out a little space in your home. So creating a space in your home where you really focus on meditation or a spiritual practice or just being present and connected with yourself really helps you to get into that state quicker. So my meditation space I only use for meditating or spiritual work or energy work, those kinds of things. Otherwise, I really don't come into this little area that I've created. So what that does is that the body and the mind start to get used to this area being where we're going to say meditate. So it's easier for the body to relax, for the mind to quiet, because it's used to doing that in this space. It's like a little reminder. And the body, the mind, and the soul are all connected. So if we're allowing the body and the mind to get into the place that we want for, say, meditation or spiritual work, then we'll be able to connect with our soul a little bit easier. So it's just a nice way to really get yourself ready for whatever type of practice that you're doing and get into that kind of relaxed, spiritual, meditative state quicker. So you don't need a space in your home. You can meditate anywhere, you can do spiritual work anywhere, but if it is something that you're interested in creating for yourself, then that's why I'm going to give you some tips on how you can do that today. So number one, you don't need a big space at all. I have a little corner that I call my meditation corner, and it's really not big at all. It takes up like what you can see in this frame, and then I have a shelf like right next to me, which I'll put a clip in, where I keep other things that I'll bring over into the corner if I want to use props to help me with my meditation practice or spiritual practice. But otherwise, it's a really small area in my home, so you don't need a lot of space. So that's tip number one. It could be a little mini corner. You don't need much at all. And I guess going into tip number two, find a spot in your home where you can find the most quiet, which might not be easy. For me, I would really actually prefer that my Zen area would be in my living room, because I have all of my plants in there and it's really, in general, a Zen area. But unfortunately, my living room is right by my front door and right by a street, and I live on a semi-busy street. My dogs really bark a lot when they're in the living room, and my dogs really can't be more than 10 feet away from me at all times. So they're going to be near me when I'm meditating or doing a spiritual practice. So in my office, it's set further away. It tends to be quieter. It's not perfect. They do bark sometimes, but it is the quietest space that I can find in my home that I can kind of make mine. So that would be tip number two.
I don't know how I kept these two out of the video I filmed, because this is normally what it's like with them. They literally take up half the corner, and I have to basically move around them so that they stay comfortable while I'm there to meditate. This one's a little more independent.
Tip number three, what you need in the corner, you don't need a lot. It's really not the props that you bring in, which, you know, you might want to make it look nice, that's fine, but it's really not about that. It's about the space being designed or the space being utilized for a specific purpose, and then otherwise you're really not coming into this area. So you don't need a lot. What I would suggest is at least having something like some type of cushion, or I have this carpet. If you like sitting on the floor, you could just have some type of like small carpeting that you could sit on, or I have a meditation cushion. I just prefer that when I'm sitting. It's more comfortable. So just something a little bit cozy that you could sit on just to make it comfortable, and so that you're comfortable while you're sitting there, because you might be, depending on how long you meditate or do your spiritual practice, you might be sitting there for a little bit, so you want to be comfortable. So those first three tips are really, I think, all you actually need to create your little space. So number one, just remembering it could be a really small space. If you have an entire room you could dedicate, that's amazing. I wish I had that right now, but I don't. So if you're like me and you don't have the space to have an entire room, a small little corner is fine. Number two, trying to find the quietest possible place in your home. And number three, just making making it cozy so you're comfortable sitting there. That's really all you need to create the space, but there are things that you could do to kind of amp it up if you like more props and things like that. So the rest of the tips will be additional, but the first 3 are really all you need to get started. Another thing you could do is to have nice dim lighting. So I have this light here, which you can't even see so much right now because it's during the day, but it's a really nice dim light, so it gives me a little bit of light, but it's keeping it pretty dark in the area. So that's another thing that you could do. Having plants in the room is always a nice thing. You might not have them specifically in your corner depending where the light is in the room, but that's a nice way to really bring a more zen atmosphere into the area. So I do have plants in the room. They're kind of up and away from the corner so that they get light from the window, but they still bring a nice vibe into the atmosphere. You can also bring in any props that you like to use in your practices. So if you like to use crystals, you can bring any of your crystals in, or you can keep them in the area if you don't have dogs that are gonna mess with them or something, or kids maybe. I also usually will burn a little bit of Palo Santo in the area before I start my practice, so that's something else I like to do, so you could do that as well. Really anything that you like to use you can bring in if you don't like Palo Santo. I don't even know what this one is. I got it as a gift. It's not sage. It does smell really nice. I wish I could tell you what it was. I gotta ask my friend who bought it for me, but yeah, anything that you like in that way can really help you to make the area feel a little more spiritual and kind of keep the energy nice and clear. So something else I thought about when creating this area was to have all the elements kind of around me. So I don't particularly have these directly in my little corner, but I do have around the edges, I have things that represent the elements. So I have a decent amount of crystals, so those represent earth, but you don't even need crystals really to connect with earth, especially if you're sitting on the ground. You can connect with it that way, but some type of crystal is a nice way to connect with the earth element. And then up there have a little water fountain, so that's good for the water element. If you don't want to get a fountain and you want to work with the elements, you can even just bring a bowl of water over into the area before you meditate, and that can help you connect that way. For fire, I will light a candle. I keep my candles up there just for fire safety reasons. Like I was saying, my dogs really do like to come into this area, so if I have them kind of sitting in front of me, there's a good chance they might knock it over, so that wouldn't really be safe. But so I keep them up there, but having candles is a good way to bring the fire element in. For the air element, things like burning Palo Santo and incense, that kind of connects with air as well. To me, I feel like air is around me at all times, so I don't feel as much like I need to bring that in specifically. But like having, say, your incense or Palo Santo, that could be the air element. Having something like feathers, I have that's actually in my living room. I don't have anything specifically in here, but it does make me think of the air element. I have these peacock feathers. Occasionally I'll bring one of the feathers in here. I got them from, there's a farm close by. My mom volunteers there. I do go every once in a while, and they have like rescue peacocks, so they literally naturally shed their feathers, or they molt, I think, and then so that's how I got the peacock feathers. I'm pretty sure his name is Cheech, the peacock there, so thank you, Cheech, for these feathers. Sometimes I'll bring a feather in if I feel like I want a little bit more of the air element, so that's something else you can do. And those are just suggestions on what helps me, but think about what helps you to get into that more Zen type mindset, what helps you to connect with yourself, what helps you to be in the present moment. There's really nothing specific that you have to do. Like I said, you don't need any props at all, but if there are things that you like, you can bring them into your area in your practices. If it is possible to really only go into the space when you're meditating, when you're doing energy, spiritual work, whatever, that way you keep it that more sacred Zen space. So you're not just coming in here to like sit on your computer and scroll through Instagram or something like that. You're really coming in here to do your spiritual, your meditative, whatever type practice. So if that's possible, I do recommend that. So I only come into this area to either meditate, to do any spiritual work. And I'll also use this area to do Reiki on my dogs. My dogs do like sitting in this area, so they kind of, you know, get to come in here whenever they want. But when I am doing Reiki on either of my older dogs, I'll do Reiki on Tyson and Macy, I will use this area. But otherwise, I really don't come into this area unless I am filming this video. I'm kind of breaking the rules a little bit for myself, but otherwise, yeah, I pretty much keep it to just spiritual practices and meditation. So those are my tips for you. And when you create the space, just remember it will take time for your body, your mind to attune to the space. So it may take time before your body and mind are remembering that this is the space that you come to do your spiritual practice or to meditate, whatever. So just give yourself the time to attune with the space. You can even take time just sitting in the space and attuning with the energy of it. It might take a little time for you to be able to sit in the area and feel that shift. So like when I sit in this area, I feel like, okay, I'm ready to meditate. So that might take a little time. So just be patient with that. But those are all the tips I have for you today. I really enjoy this area, so that's why I wanted to share it with you. I created it pretty soon after I did my yoga teacher training. I just had this idea that I just wanted this meditation corner, and it was almost my birthday. So pretty much my husband, who, I don't think he was my fiance at the time, maybe he was my boyfriend at the time. Anyway, he got me all this stuff to kind of make the area. I feel like he thought of, he was like, oh, like she's never gonna use it, and I literally use it all the time. So I really love it, so I wanted to share it with you guys. And I hope that if you make a Zen sacred space in your home that you love it too. So that's all from me for today, and I will see you guys in another video. Bye guys.